Got 500k to invest in property and I don't know where to start. Help me please, I need some advice.
Little email.
Yeah,
with a big
I've got
with a-
suffering from over-analysing pretty much everything he's been looking at. That conversation I've had over the years many times with people. The values have been different.
When I'm answering this question, I'm saying this is what I'm going to be doing. So Bank of England going up, pay rates still going down. The trio of reasons why you should invest £250,000 in
The
property.
Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity, yeah. We're really interested in what landlords who have got 20, 30 properties, what do they do? What do they do? What do they do differently? Well, I've got a capital growth is about £700 a month and the most is about £1,600 a month. And that's versus rents of £500, £600, £700.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to
Hello,
this
welcome.
week's video, Monday video of what's become known as Adam Asks Jess. This week, I want to just raise an email that I got today. It's not uncommon from so many similar emails I've had over the years, and I imagine a lot of letting agents get a similar sort of inquiry. It's really short and sweet. It just said, I've got 500k to invest in property and I don't know where to start. Help me please, I need some advice.
Little email.
Yeah,
with a big
I've got
with a big
500k
answer.
to invest in property. Help. So we had a quick chat, and it's pretty apparent this fella has been overthinking stuff, really, and basically suffering from over-analysing pretty much everything he's been looking at. You know, it's really easy to overcomplicate things in life, not just property. And that inquiry and that conversation I've had over the years many times with people. The values have been different. I've got 2 million to invest, I've got 20 grand to invest, whatever it may be. But the thought process is pretty much the same. So we're basically going to sort of have a chat around that, if that's all right with you.
I like this question.
Well, you've been doing this longer than me. You've been running a letting agent longer than me. So I've been at it for about 7 years. You've been at it for about 15 or whatever.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
Guy, well, also as a landlord, I can speak as a landlord, and what would I do? And actually, specifically to this one, what am I doing? Because actually, I haven't got £500,000 out in the bank. I've got about 250. Speaking to Charlotte, our mortgage broker. If you need a mortgage broker, we could put you in touch. Just a signpost to a good broker that we know, a friend of the agency. And interestingly, so I've got a pile of, and this is a related point, I'm not going off on a weird one. Got a number of refinances I'm going through. I think in previous videos I've said I've just in the last December, January, February been refinancing. There's a lot of talk about interest rates and whatnot in the industry, and of course it's affecting decision making. So I've released quite a bit of money. I had a little pot that I hadn't quite invested from the tail end of last year. I've added to it with refinances, and the question in January, February was, should I refinance the other ones?
Yeah.
And I have been doing so. I've got about 250 sat there now, and I'm refinancing some more. I'll have probably not quite £500,000, but just close to it, I guess, by the time they're all done. So when I'm answering this question, I'm saying this is what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
And you kind of know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Adam knows what I'm doing. And a complete separate thing. It happened today. So we're on the 27th today, and interest rates, Bank of England base rates, went up last Thursday. It would have been a Thursday, wouldn't it? Or was it?
I think it was, yeah.
And in the list of all of the things that I'm refinancing, my rates just came down.
Yeah.
So
It's going like that.
Yeah. So Bank of England going up, pay rates still going down, and I believe they've got a little. They're not going to go down
The
massively.
lenders have got to be competing with each other, aren't they? So.
Yeah, and they didn't go down by a lot. They went down by £11 a month. You know, no big deal. And of course, I'll take it. Thank you.
I've seen people turn a deal down over
£11. Do you know what? Really, I don't get pernickety on you know. Honestly, for me per property.
Genuinely, someone once showed me a spreadsheet and I was going to buy this house. Someone offered me it, but it didn't meet my thing, and it was about 10 quid out.
Yeah.
Some
So
people are like that.
£40 or £50 a month, and I wouldn't, because you can't be that accurate. If a boiler blows up, yeah. And also, don't forget, the main thing that you're going to get out of property is capital growth. So just the trio of reasons why you should invest £250,000 in property, or this
The Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity, yeah. And these are the sort of the bedrock for all property all time. Is what one prices go up, the capital growth, you look at it's the number one thing. I've been talking about it for video after video after video, maybe for the last 5-6 years. I don't know how long we've been doing these videos, but for a long, long time, your capital growth will exceed your rent. And that's why as a letting agency, we are totally focused on growth for our landlords. We want you to be buying more and more properties. Most landlords don't own enough property by their own admission, and also the very fact most landlords own one house, one and a bit. It's never been two, is the average. So we're really interested in what landlords who have got 20, 30 properties, what do they do? What do they do? What do they do differently? What do they know? And teaching that to our existing landlords so they can go off and do it themselves and grow a property portfolio. So capital growth is the thing that's going to make you the most out of rent versus capital growth. Is both things together are your total property return, but your capital growth is going to make you, in my case, I've looked at all the properties I've bought over the last 5 or 6 years, and I went back to the day I bought them to what they're worth now, and the minimum I've got out of capital growth is about £700 a month, and the most is about £1,500–1,600 a month, and that's versus rents of £500, £600, £700. Some of the rents when I first bought them all the way back there were £450. So that's what I mean by capital growth being the number one thing. Therefore, own more properties, because that's the biggest thing. Get your name on property deeds. Number one. Number two, you can rent a property out. Sounds bloody obvious, really, but actually, where else can you work hard, save, and then invest? And don't forget, you're in a small minority right there. Lots of people work hard, loads of people work hard. Very few people save. The average savings in the UK is 8 weeks or something like that. And then an even smaller number of people invest. So what we're talking about, this chap here, it is a chap, isn't it? A chap,
Yeah.
Who's got £500,000. He's worked hard, clearly. He's saved, very well done, and he's about to invest, or not. But making that leap is really important. But you've got some money, you're going to put it somewhere, and where else can you get a monthly return? You've got capital growth, great, stocks and shares, fine, wine, art, cars, gold, they'll all bring in a monthly return, but where else can you get an annual return,
where you can leverage it as well.
Where else can you get? Where else can you get money coming in? The third point, you've just given it away. Leverage, the ability to leverage. This is the holy trinity: capital growth, rent, and then the ability to leverage. Why can you walk into a bank and get a mortgage? Well, because it's a safe bet, isn't it? Banks know that prices are going up, and they know that values are going up, usually, almost always, and you've got rent coming in, so it can pay its own way. Property can pay its own way. Now, the fourth thing is so that for me goes a long way to explaining and answering this chap here. What do I do with £500,000?
I've got two other things to add to your holy trinity.
Oh, go on then. That makes it an odd number, a weird number. What would that be?
Don't know.
That's some. It'd be like a 5 is not a good number, is it? It's like a little bit devilly number.
A fiverly. That's 6. No, it's not. I don't know.
No, a pen.
What I was going to say is, where else could you have? There are some places, but not many, where you've always got a customer.
Oh yeah, that's a really
Do you know what I mean? You're never without customers, because the rental demand is so strong, and there's a housing crisis, and there's always demand. And what happens then? That means the price is always going up. The rents are going up.
Yeah.
And the fifth thing,
go on then,
is you can own those houses in a limited company. Yeah. And you can minimise your tax and your overheads.
Inheritance tax planning's good for that. You can pass the limited company on to your heirs. People talk all the time. Landlords come into us and talk about the amount of tax they're paying being more because of all sorts of reasons. Usually boils down to Section 24 tax. Go into a limited company, that gets rid of that. In terms of rents increasing, I saw something the other day saying that rents are going to increase by 15% over the next 3 years. I think it was. Made a note of it here. Forgot to write down my source. Sorry, I have to put that in the
source.
Source.
Internet.
Well, it was a bit more than the internet. No, I haven't really written it down. Sorry, I really should have. But in terms of rents, average age of the first-time buyers going up. Well, the population's growing. The land is not getting any bigger. No. Average age of the first-time buyer is going up. Therefore, people are staying in the same house for longer. People are living longer. People are. The average age of the first-time buyer, I've already said that one, so they're living in the house, so they're buying later. So all those are your rental customers, and they're staying there longer. People are staying single for longer, putting off having kids longer. The rental market is getting bigger and bigger. You can see that. The fourth thing that is now the fifth thing or sixth thing, slick, is the ability to what we'd call develop to rent. So you can buy a property at a slight discount for whatever reason. Now that, you know, this idea of below market value, we sort of poo-poo that a little bit. I mean, of course, you can buy a property and it's a bargain. You know, everybody likes rummaging along the sales racks for a bargain, and you can do the same thing with a property. There's a school of thought that says the day you buy that property, whatever you paid for it, it is what it's worth. You know,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. What's the definition of of any value? It's the price that two idiots agree on. That's it. You know. So, but it's also totally true that you can buy a bargain, you can polish it up in some way, whether you're fixing a lease hold something, or, you know, putting a new kitchen in, or redecorating. You can do something. If you're the cash buyer, maybe you get it a little bit cheaper because of that. There's all sorts of things you can do.
You know, if we'd have scripted this, that's where I'd have said, that's where this guy starts. Find somewhere that he can add some value to.
Add some value to, yeah.
Don't just go on buy off the shelf, if you like.
Note to self: script this. Would be loads better if
basically, that is what I said to him. Find something that's maybe a bit of a wreck, a bit run down, that can be renovated. You add and create some value, refinance it later on, and don't overthink it. Just don't overthink it.
Yeah, there is also a way of instead of buying a house that's a bit of a wreck and doing it up, or maybe a bit of that, but also you could buy in an area where the area itself is a bit of a wreck. So personally, with my 250, whatever it will end up being, 400 and something thousand pounds by the time I've done it, and it's going to be more than that, because every time I buy a property, I'll refinance it, and then usually that's at the 6-month point, and I'll maybe 2 years or even 3 years later I'll refinance it, and then every 5 years after that I'll refinance it. So I've always got refinances coming in, and they're always dropping in, but I made a specific pledge to myself to get a war chest together. I believe that the next 2 years they're akin to 2008 to 2010.
Yeah, definitely.
That purple period of investing where there'd been a depression. There was lots of problems in the market, and then they looked different. It wasn't a credit crunch. COVID wasn't a credit crunch. It was a different thing. It felt like war at some point, didn't it? Everything, the streets evacuated. It was a thing, but it was a very different thing to the 2008 credit crunch. But nevertheless, it's affected markets. The slow rolling recession, as it's been called by I forget his name from BlackRock.
The BlackRock guy.
The BlackRock guy. I really should write all these things down. I'm going to resolve to do a better job. I'm going to script a bit more. No.
Got time.
But this idea that interest rates have been really low for a really long time, a decade, and as rates start to go up, it's actually a good thing, because they're not that bad. Still works, and all those inflationary pressures are kind of washed out. Rents are going up. You're going to end up making more the same month to month, but the asset you own is going to grow more, so actually you might end up making more because of inflation, so don't worry about inflation. But anybody who is running a marginal business, a landlord who's bought the wrong house in the wrong area, and is really just reliant on a 2% interest rate or whatever, and also businesses in the same way, you call them a zombie business, wouldn't you? When that interest rate starts to come up, because inflation, interest rate linked, not the same of course, but linked, then those kind of businesses are found out, and you get this. It's not a wide problem throughout the whole economy. It can be, but you get businesses going pop because they were paying nothing on their loan, and now actually they don't make a profit to service the loan, or whatever it is. Landlords the same, homeowners the same. I mean, we are right now seeing homeowners being repossessed. I mean, who'd have thought that 2-3 years ago? I remember asking the question, how do you see repossessions going? And forbearance was a word where banks were just not going to be doing this. Well, they've been storing them up, and they're doing them all at once now. And I think that's going to create some opportunities, unfortunately, which is how it was in 2008, 9, 10, 9, 10, those 2 year periods. So bounce back better, said Boris. I think the next 2 years, this chap here is in a nice position. He's got £500,000.
Not me.
And he needs to be finding the right house in the right area, bit of a wreck maybe, or an area that's going to regenerate. It's got to be a high yielding place. So we talked about capital growth. You want the right house in the right area. You want an area that's going to be going up in capital growth, and they're not the most obvious areas. They're not the they're not the leafy suburbs. They'll go up really slowly and steadily, reasonably consistently. But the best areas are actually not the scruffiest, but somewhere in the middle. Because as soon as they become they go from scruffy to leafy suburb, bang, that's the biggest pop. So find those kind of areas. Make sure that the rent's right, so good yields. You want that, and take advantage of the better mortgage rates right now. But do put some kind of leverage on it.
Yeah.
Get your thoughts in order, write it all down, come up with a business plan, and off you go. That's what I do.
Pretty much what I said to him.
There you go.
So there we go.
Anybody else? Hopefully you found that useful. Now you want to be subscribing,
Liking,
ding-a-linging,
all that stuff.
and there's a link to what we call our discovery call in the description there. So if you want to find out more about what we do as a letting agency, how we can help landlords to run a better property portfolio, click on the link, come and see us at discovery call. I'll be there, Adam will be there, and we'll answer any other questions you got.
Cool.
Done.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Cheers. Bye for
Cheers.
now.